incremental philanthropy for Hawaii. And that's why, as part of our centennial, as Kim mentioned, we're launching a statewide community effort to increase giving in Hawaii with a focus on legacy gifts. Over the past year, we engaged Ward Research to help us better understand philanthropists in our community and the high net worth community that was not giving to philanthropy. And so many of the statistics I just shared with you come from that research. What we've also learned is that the high net worth people are interested in participating in legacy campaigns. Many of them have not been asked. By the way, for those of you who know our giving studies that we've done now 4 times over the last, 15 years or something like that, do you know the #1 reason why people don't give to charity? Bingo. No wonder you guys are here today. So they're interested. Some of them have not been asked. And they're certainly more likely to do so through the charitable organizations they currently support. So that's why, beginning in January, as we begin to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Community Foundation, we're going to launch the Hawaii Legacy Giving Campaign that will work with nonprofits across the state to encourage their network of donors and partners to consider leaving a legacy gift to their cause. Now, let me say that again. Our goal is to try to increase. We actually have a numerical goal. Can I tell them what our goal is? We have a numerical goal in mind of trying to, at least over the next couple of years, of getting 500 new legacy commitments for your organizations. I mean, writ large, right? If everybody participates together, we want to try to get 500 new legacy, which would mean, if you use Paul Keenan's math, over $125 million of additional resources that would come into the community. So we want to work with you to do this. Now, how are we going to do this? We're going to provide some marketing support through the year, a drumbeat, if you will, around the Legacy Giving Campaign, advertising, advertorials. I didn't even know what advertorials are. Advertising, advertorials, earned media stories focusing on the impact and benefits of legacy giving. A lot of the stories I told you today are the kinds of things we want to share with the broader public, so they understand the impact that leaving a little bit of their estate in their will to charity can make a huge difference for the community going forward. We're going to provide resources to nonprofits to support current legacy programs and to help some of you that don't have legacy programs figure out how to get them started. We're going to have gatherings for nonprofits to share successes, challenges, and best practices, because this is not a race or a competition. This is about the tide raising all the boats, right? And so we want to all work together to create a community goal to increase awareness and participation in legacy giving. We're going to do workshops and webinars. We'll have events for nonprofits and prospective legacy donors so they can learn the benefits and the impact of legacy giving. So, what do you need to do? Well, here's a couple of things. First, bump up the conversation. So starting next year, help us get the word out about the lasting impact of legacy giving. Patty, look, Patty, where are you? Patty's standing in the back over there. Patty is going to be manning a table right out the front door, right over there, in the lobby with more information about the Legacy Giving Campaign. Ask for gifts on behalf of your organization and whether or not you'll be around to see them. And also think about your own personal legacy. And think about making a commitment to help ensure the sustainability of your organizations and the organizations you care about. And ask yourself, how will my legacy contribute to creating a better Hawaii? So, one last thing. Never lose sight of how the generosity of others has touched and enriched your own life. Whoever you are, you have benefited from the commitment and vision of others who wanted to build a better community. You are the totality of all the philanthropy that has taken place, is taking place, and will take place in Hawaii. So let's work together to make this $6 billion opportunity called legacy giving a reality for our future generations. Think of it as a way of paying your gratitude forward and creating the kind of lasting change that others have made to benefit you. So here's to the next 100 years of philanthropy. I want to thank you for your attention and your humor and putting up with me. And I really hope that you'll all join us in this effort. And I guess I have some time for questions. So I want to thank you. I'll stop there. This is weird standing up here, like, okay. But go, fire away if any of you have questions. We can all just break and go out and talk to each other. But any questions? Yeah, Kim.
So will this be a dialogue you'll be having individually with your members of your foundation as well? About encouraging them to think about legacy?
Yeah, we have about 1,000 clients and donors to the foundation, not all of whom that we know of have made legacy gifts. So our intention is we're going to start there from our side, but more importantly, we know that actually I think the campaign for legacy giving is going to be more successful if we're able to unlock the passions of the people who care about your organizations, whether it's literacy, Planned Parenthood, Iolani. I mean, they're more likely to think about leaving a gift to Iolani in their will than leaving a gift to HCF, frankly. And so we really see this as a way of helping you have the conversation with your donors and your board members. We know from some of the focus groups we did that when we brought up, for example, we're having a focus group with high net worth donors, and in one of them, a woman who had been a long-standing board member of a nonprofit, we're talking about legacy giving, and she never thought of making a gift to that organization, and she's just never thought of it. So there's a lot of opportunity if we just start the right conversations. Yeah. Other questions?
Here.
Oh.
Hey, Kelvin. So I'm just wondering, given that legacy giving is what you're describing to me, it seems like it'll be the next chapter of philanthropy eventually. I was just wondering, is it premature to ask what are some areas that you would see impact or focus in regards to legacy giving?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think that, so if you look at overall giving and you see certain areas that are becoming, that are, let's say, growing. If you look at the giving studies we've done, for example, if you look at the giving studies we've done, a very small percentage of giving goes to the environment, but the environment has been one of the fastest growing parts of giving, right? And it makes sense, right? There's climate change issues, energy issues, all kinds of things. So, that makes sense. But the reason I'm hesitating, Joy, is because the legacy giving component really is focusing on people that are probably 50 and older, right? Because they're the ones that are actually planning for things in their estate. And so, it's hard to say. I think clearly if you look at the greatest generation and the baby boomers, education still is a huge part of that. That 30% that's going offshore that I just described, in annual giving, I think that's largely health and education related. So, it's people giving to their alma maters if they went to college or professional schools on the mainland. It's giving to, MD Anderson because they cured me of prostate cancer. Not me personally, but I mean, and so, it's really kind of hard to say. I think the question is to have the conversation. It's trust me, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's hard to look somebody in the face and say, have you thought about leaving X, something in your will, because it kind of makes you feel like it's a morbid subject or whatever. But it's a conversation that really needs to happen, because what we're finding is a lot of people are willing to do it. They just never think of it. And the lawyers and financial advisors and CPAs that advise these people, they're not going to probably bring it up on their own. We encourage them to do that, and we try to get professional advisors to talk to their clients about charitable provisions. But in most professional advisors are going to say, hey, I'm going to take my cue from my client, right? So it's up to us to ask that question and to try to begin that conversation. And what we want to do is to create, frankly, surround sound around this topic for the next couple of years. So when you do it, you can almost blame us, right? God, you know, I wouldn't do this, but I went to this conference and, you know, Kelvin said I had to ask you, you know. So, you know, it's okay, blame me. I'm perfectly okay with that.
Kelvin, Jennifer Dotson from the American Red Cross. One thing that interested me in your remarks was the example that you gave of some of the gifts that went to several different organizations. And so not only is legacy gifts the elusive animal that we're all pursuing, but I think one thing that's been also elusive is the way that we all work together in the room to maybe have these conversations together. I don't know what is the way to do that, but maybe if you could help us give an example or a model of how that might happen, I would appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, I think there are more opportunities to do that. You know, I'm kind of struggling to, I mean, I can think of a couple examples, but I think there are more opportunities for organizations of like mind. Take something top of mind right now around the homeless issue, right? So we have an initiative called Housing ASAP where there are 8 homeless providers that we are working with that focus on families. So they comprise about 50% of the services to homeless families in the state. And our goal is for them to increase their throughput so that they're able to put more families into stable housing faster and to decrease recidivism back onto the streets. So, you know, I think we're going to be working with them to see if a joint marketing effort around legacy giving to their constituents makes sense. I think there are lots of opportunities to do that. American Red Cross around disaster relief, you know, I mean, there's lots of opportunities. You know, not all things sort of play out well when you think about legacy. I mean, sometimes sustainability doesn't seem to work with the perpetualness of it all, but you know, I think there's certain things where it makes sense, and hopefully we'll see groups coming together. There's a question?
I think a good touch point.
Yeah, go ahead.
A good touch point you said is the age. I think we have this mentality to ask people at this later point. Is part of this campaign to switch our thinking? If that greater giving is seen during that 45 to 54, should we be starting to think of having and capturing them at that big giving where they've created a commitment or start?
Yeah, great question. Most people do not ever think about doing a will until after they're 50. So, you know, it's kind of at that point. And by the way, so one of the things that we want to focus on, and we were talking about legacy giving, but really if you stop and think about it, for all of you here, because this is AFP, you know, it's really about donor stewardship, right? Because, you know, you have someone who's 50 and cares passionately about your organization, they're on your board, and at 60 they step off of your board. And what are you going to do to maintain your connection and engagement of that donor? Because they're probably going to change their will 3 or 4 times. You know, they hate their kids, they kick their kids out. The kids have grandkids, the kids come back in the will. You know how that works. So, you know, I mean, well, I forgot this being taped. This is being videotaped. So, you know, you've got to hang in there with them no matter what. And I think that there's a larger issue around donor stewardship that I think we're looking at. By the way, the other statistic I should share with you is that, you know, when we talked about the generosity in Hawaii, basically the average giving in Hawaii, although 93% of the households give, the average giving in Hawaii is about 1.7 or 8%, I'm looking at Paul, of adjusted gross income. The national average is 3%. So we've got some ground to make. Now you can say that part of that makes sense, right? Because it costs more to live here. Housing costs more, gas costs more. If you send a kid to private school, it costs more, all those kinds of things. So there's a cost of living factor in there, but there shouldn't be one for legacy, right? I mean, at that point, it's really about what are you going to leave behind of what you have at the end. So hopefully, we thought this was an easier inroad, but you can see where the same principles of good donor stewardship and engagement apply also to annual giving. So we hope that this will have a spillover effect to perhaps the level of giving that other people make on an annual basis. Lisa, you had a question?
Just, can you speak, Kelvin, to the mechanism for the donor that might not have a relationship already with a charitable nonprofit? What is the mechanism for presenting the array of choices to the donor, particularly you mentioned like the donor whose caregiver actually dictated the decision? So if it can be spontaneous like that, what are the chances of a smaller organization or mid-sized organization that might not be a household name to the donor? What are the chances of that organization being presented as an option?
Pretty low. To be blunt, I mean, the two examples I used of Kenneth Hoffman in here, and I think there was one other, the Diana Lord, and I think they're beautiful anomalies. They're going to happen. It'll happen to you. Someone will read an article in the paper. Look, when Jack and Marie Lord died, and they left the $40 million to the Community Foundation with specific instructions about where to give the money. The only organization that we knew they had a tie to was the Humane Society. All the other organizations, we had no clue how they decided to give it to who they gave it to. But those are kind of unusual. I think the vast majority are going to be people you know. And that's where we got to concentrate the effort. Yeah.
Go about bridging the gap between those that have not been asked, that are very wealthy, and getting the financial planners involved with the nonprofits. Is there like a seminar or conferences to give them knowledge, to send them your way or our way?
Yeah. Well, Curtis Psyche is in the back there with Lonnie Starkey, and they're both really involved with Hawaii Planned Giving Council. So our hope is that we're going to be able to energize the Hawaii Planned Giving Council around this. That's the principal professional association that focuses on this issue on behalf of CPAs, financial advisors, and lawyers. So we're hoping that we'll be able to run a parallel campaign with that effort. I want to turn this way to see if there are any. These guys are asking a lot of questions. I don't know what's happening. You guys need more coffee over here or something? What's going on? Any questions over here? Okay, then I'm going to go back over here. Yeah.
Going back to your slide on what you're going to do, marketing and workshops, how are we involved? How can we be involved in that?
So go to the table that Patty Look has outside, and she's going to have a packet of information on how you can get involved. I mean, we really want to sign up a number of nonprofits to, in a sense, commit to helping to get, 500 legacy gifts, new legacy gifts in over the next year. So that's how we're going to work on it. Hi, Diane.
I was going back to your talking about, the different types of asks, and so with the board, I remember hearing that a good goal you can present to your board members is everyone to put the charity in for 1%. We haven't made a big effort in that regard because we're always more focused on the current gift, and so the annual fund, which is what we say, the 100% goal for the board is going to be focused on annual fund. After that, if you'd like to give a booster gift, if you'd like to give scholarships, if you'd like, we need the other areas, but that's the one where you're going to get a phone call for sure if you don't respond. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah. Okay, for 18 years of my life, I raise money every day, right? And so when I was at the Nature Conservancy, a little bit different now. But, It's a challenge, right? You guys all feel the pressure of making annual goals in order to pay for operations. So, that's clearly where you focus your efforts. But I would say that asking for a legacy gift is not at all interfering with the idea of an annual gift. In fact, maybe if you're asking for an annual gift from your board, and then you're asking for a scholarship gift, and you're asking for something, those are all lifetime gifts, and so maybe those collide and compete with each other. But the legacy gift shouldn't compete at all. And it should be something that they can always change their minds, right? Very few of these are irrevocable unless they set up a charitable remainder trust or charitable lead trust or charitable gift annuity or whatever it might be. Most of these, they can change their mind. And that's where your job comes in, to continue to steward the donor. But, you shouldn't see those as competing or colliding with each other, because in fact you should be able to ask for both. Right? Yes?
Thanks for sharing your new initiative. If anyone is interested in learning how to open gift planning conversation, I'd like to encourage them to attend the breakout session at 3:45.
Yeah, great, thank you. Still no questions from this side of the aisle. Okay, I'm giving you guys like 1 more minute to think of a question. Okay, I'm coming back over here, yeah.
Glenn King, formerly of Uline School.
Hi, Glenn.
Do you forecast a shrinkage of the middle class such that that's causing a move towards the legacy side? And are we foreseeing more of a barbell type of fundraising action in the future?
So Glenn's asking whether we're hedging our bet based on demographic and economic trends. No, I think that's an issue that we got to pay attention to, is the shrinking of the middle class, because clearly, that has been a stalwart part of charitable giving in the United States. The reason why we're focusing on legacy gifts is actually people can make a much bigger gift to your charity on a legacy basis than they can annually, right? If you just stop and think about it. Most of you in this room that are seasoned fundraisers, you can apply a multiple to whatever you're getting annually and figure out what you think the potential is for a legacy gift. So we just think that it is, given the cost of living here, so I'll back into your question, given the cost of living here, as much as we'd like to see the 1.7% of average adjusted gross income go to 3%, which is the national average here, we understand why that can be met with some level of resistance, right? Because people are just going to say, I'm taking care of my parents, I'm taking care of my grandkids, blah, blah, blah. We all hear it every day. It's a different story when you're talking about a legacy gift. This is what remains upon your passing. And my view is to be able to say, look,